A strike by aviation airline engineers at WestJet is over, but the impact of flight cancellations will linger for some time. Good afternoon. More than a dozen WestJet flights were canceled at Pearson today.
And that means many people trying to get to cruises or weddings have been left scrambling. CTV's Raheem Ladani has the details. Raheem.
Nathan and Michelle, good afternoon. We are standing inside Terminal 3's departure hall, and we are in front of WestJet's check-in assistance area. The line behind me, it's long and is moving slowly. And speaking with a lot of people, they're just hoping that their flight will take off, but that is not going to be the case for everyone. Already today, 17 WestJet flights have been canceled here at Pearson International, and passengers, they're not happy. While the strike between WestJet and its mechanics may be over, the travel chaos for its passengers is far from resolved.
Well, nobody informed us, no any email about the cancellation of the plane to the Halifax. I'm for the last 3 hours, like the ping pong, I'm asking people, nobody can serving.
It's that frustrated feeling that can be felt at Toronto's Pearson International Airport Tuesday, while more than 1,000 flights have been canceled by the airline system-wide since the strike began last Thursday.
We're sent to Condor and back to WestJet and then back and forth, and nobody really wanted to help us. Then we found a nice lady here who tried at least to help us, but there were no connections left. So
the two sides reached a tentative 5-year deal on Sunday that will see immediate wage increases for aircraft maintenance engineers.
We're trying to improve the lives of the men and women that keep your airplane safe. It was never our intent to disrupt anyone's travel plans.
As the airline works to ramp up regular operations, many passengers feel the company is not prioritizing their needs.
And they didn't ever even want to provide us any accommodation or beverages, food, nothing. So they don't want to pay for that.
And just one lady over here, she tell me she can rebook new ticket for me today in the night.
During negotiations, WestJet says it was forced to park 130 planes, anticipating more delays and cancellations for the coming days. Another factor that's adding to these cancellations is a lack of WestJet crew. Ironically, WestJet says that it's going to take time to transport their own employees to airports across the country because they too were stranded during the strike. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. And still ahead, the first hurricane of the season. Beryl is barreling down on Jamaica and Mexico. We'll have the details a little later this half hour.
But first, a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot at Nathan Phillips Square. We're coming off a lovely Canada Day yesterday, and things are looking good so far today. Kids are on summer vacation, many back to work today, and so far, sunny skies in many areas. A good start. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Jess.
Hey, a really beautiful start to the short kind of work week for many folks. Temperature-wise, we are hovering around the seasonal mark. You factor in the humidex, and it's a little bit warmer. We're kind of hitting that seasonal mark when you factor in the humidex. Hurricane Beryl not affecting us in any way here in Ontario, but we'll obviously keep a close eye on that as it kind of makes its way towards Jamaica and through Mexico over the next couple of days. Now, temperature-wise here, we're kind of in the low to mid-20s, so an easterly wind kind of helping to keep any of that extra humidity out, at least for now. Temperature-wise through the islands, through Pearson, we're in that low 20 range, an easterly or southeasterly wind. This afternoon, that 24 feeling like 26, but into the day tomorrow, significantly hotter. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast. Right now, it's back to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Now to a strange crash in Rosedale where two high-end Mercedes G-Wagons were involved in a collision.
Police are not saying too much at this point other than the vehicles collided. CTV's Mike Walker is standing by live at the scene this afternoon with more on what happened, Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, the only other detail police are providing at this time is that one person was arrested. I'm going to step out of the way here so you can see some of the aftermath of what happened here. This Audi, you can see how extensive the damage is to the rear end. That is one of two vehicles that the Mercedes G-Wagon struck. There is also property damage to two homes here. Fencing has been toppled over, a tree and a stop sign also knocked down. Now, we're going to show you some video from earlier this morning. The collision happened around 2 a.m. and this video shows two Mercedes SUV G-Wagons that crashed onto the front lawns of the two homes at Sherbourne and South Drive, which is just north of Bloor. There is damage to property of one of the homes, and at least one of the SUVs crashed into two other vehicles, an Audi and a BMW, that were parked in the driveway of one home. You can see how violent the impact was. Video shows the airbags deployed in one of the Mercedes. Police tell us they arrested one man on scene. They say he was transported to hospital with minor injuries, but at this point there is no word on charges. We spoke with one neighbor who didn't want to be identified, but they describe hearing two vehicles speeding north on Sherbourne just moments before this multi-vehicle crash happened.
I heard a whooshing sound, which I'm right at the corner where there's a stop, like a four-way stop. And I usually know when people stop there because the cars sound a certain way when they stop. I just heard a car whoosh by really, really quick. I heard a little jangly sound. I'm going, I wonder if that was a collision. And so then I opened up the window and I looked down Sherbourne and I hear a car alarm going off, or it was a house alarm. And someone was ranting, turn it off, turn it off. And the person seemed really, really irate.
Now, as you can see, tow trucks are on scene right now, towing away those two vehicles out of the homeowner's driveway that at least one of the Mercedes G-Wagons collided with. Neighbors tell us that speeding is a major problem in this area. Toronto police tell us they are still investigating the circumstances that led to this collision and will be providing an update at some point later today. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a month since a mass shooting at North Albion Collegiate killed two innocent men.
And while a 14-year-old has been charged with first-degree murder, now more gunfire has been reported. CTV John Musselman is at the scene and joins us live now. John.
Well, Nathan, there's not a lot of information from police, but they do confirm that there were reports of gunfire in this neighborhood last night. No suspects to report and no victims. We'll show you some video from the area taken today. It's very calm here this morning. This is the scene near North Albion Collegiate on Mount Olive and Kipling. Now, as you mentioned, it was just a month ago that two men lost their lives and three were injured during this mass shooting in the parking lot at North Albion Collegiate. Now, eventually a 14-year-old was arrested in connection with that case, and police believe there may be another suspect out there. This was a shooting that really rocked this neighborhood and this community. And just last week, the Toronto Youth Cabinet held a meeting just down the street. It was about anti-gun violence in this area. It was a gathering of young people to talk about what some of the problems are, what some of the issues are, and what are some of the possible solutions, getting youth involved, getting them opportunities in employment, and actually in areas like keeping schools open so people have access and places to go. Now, again, police say they have no suspect information on this, but we'll have some reaction from the community and what's happening here and what they're trying to do to fix it. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Pro-Palestinian protesters blocked the Pride Parade route over the weekend, cutting the celebration short on Sunday.
And organizers of the demonstration have followed up, reiterating demands and calling on Pride Toronto to cut ties with any organizations linked to Israel. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the latest.
This is pro-Palestinian protesters shutting down Canada's largest Pride Parade in Toronto. The disruption causing organizers to cancel the march through the streets about an hour early and forcing 67 groups in the parade to stop without finishing the route.
There is no pride in genocide.
Gary Kinsman is a founding member of Toronto's Gay and Lesbian Committee in 1981 and recently resigned from Pride Toronto. He says the decision to protest was after a meeting was requested with Pride Toronto to discuss demands from Queers for Palestine, which included the organization divesting from corporations it says have ties with Israel.
We had 19 members of Pride Toronto, 10 ex-members, hundreds of people from the community asked Pride Toronto to have this special general meeting. They refused.
The protest was organized by a newly formed group called the Coalition Against Pinkwashing. They say they're disappointed the parade was cut short, but they were forced to interfere to highlight and educate people about the number of Palestinians dying in the nearly 9-month-long running conflict.
It is utterly shameful that Pride Toronto has turned into a spectacle that glamorizes the very corporations and governments that are oppressing and discriminating against us.
Estella Nash is a lesbian who took part in the parade alongside Mayor Olivia Chow.
It was really horrifying. It was sad. It was really sad for all of us. There's other times and places you can protest. I mean, we get one little tiny weekend a year to show everybody.
While others have been left feeling torn.
It is disappointing to see something that everyone's looking forward to the whole year be interrupted. On another hand, there's like a crisis going on in the world, and there should be more of a push to increase awareness of it.
The mayor giving these thoughts.
It's really up to Pride Toronto to make a decision, and I don't want to judge.
It was not an easy decision, but I strongly believe it was the right decision.
Pride Toronto's executive director says that decision made for the safety of everyone. He says a written response was given to groups who wanted information and the meeting in the spring over the demands.
You know, when I speak to my colleagues across the world that are leading prides, they have had several meetings and the disruptions still happen. So I cannot say yes or no whether this would have happened.
He says shutting down the protest was in the best interest of the community. Protesters say they would rather see a smaller grassroots pride parade rather than a larger one with corporate sponsors they say they can't support. Beth McDonnell, CTV News, Toronto.
All right, thank you, Beth. The search continues for a suspect in 2 hate-motivated mischief investigations. Police allege a person threw rocks through the window of a synagogue near Bathurst and Dulane Drive on Sunday. The suspect fled on a motorcycle. Police say the same suspect then threw rocks through the window of another synagogue near Bayview and Fifeshire Road. Now to Eastern Ontario, where a doctor charged in the deaths of 4 patients has been acquitted. Dr. Brian Nadler was facing 4 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of seniors at the Hawkesbury and District General Hospital. And in the last hour, an Ontario court has acquitted Dr. Nadler. He's been found not guilty in all 4 deaths. Dr. Nadler maintained his innocence after he was charged, and his lawyers claim all of the seniors died of COVID-19. CTV's Colton Prail was in the courtroom this morning.
Nathan, an unusual event today at court in Ottawa. Dr. Brian Nadler acquitted and found not guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 4 counts of criminal negligence causing death. The doctor was facing these charges after 4 of his patients died at the Hawkesbury General Hospital in 2021 during a Delta outbreak of COVID-19. The Crown suggesting something much more sinister was afoot in those deaths, while the defense said COVID was the reason for them. Originally, Dr. Nadler was just facing 1 charge of first-degree murder. However, police said there was ample evidence to lay charges a year later in 3 other cases. Today, however, on the first day of what was supposed to be a 5-week trial, the defense instead offering no evidence, the Crown offering no evidence and seeking an acquittal. As a result, Dr. Nadler was found not guilty. The Crown says the reason they were forced to do that is because in the pre-trial process, their expert testimony was excluded as evidence, something so integral to their case, they say there was no chance of getting the desired outcome for the Crown that they were seeking. As a result, the not guilty verdict was found today. Now, this does leave the door open for an appeal in the future, something the Crown has said they are considering but not committed to. In the meantime, Dr. Nadler has not said whether or not he plans to return to medicine. His lawyers saying this is unprecedented, that he's quite emotional, and that he'll need some time to consider his future. We spoke to some members of the victims. We spoke to some close friends of the family members of the victims, I should say. They say they were shocked by the decision and are still left with many questions about the deaths of their loved ones.
CTV's Colton Prail in Ottawa there. Thank you. Below the border now, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled former President Donald Trump can be partially immune from prosecution for his actions related to trying to overturn the 2020 election. The court extended the delay in the criminal case against Trump, reducing the chance he could be tried before the November election. The justices ordered lower courts to figure out precisely how partial immunity will apply to Trump's case. A district judge will have to decide which of Trump's actions were official acts, which would shield him from prosecution. A core feature of the 4-count indictment is Trump bullying Vice President Mike Pence, not to certify the electoral votes.
A deadly hurricane in the Caribbean has its sights set on Jamaica.
Hurricane Beryl is now a potentially catastrophic Category 5 storm. It's the earliest Cat 5 ever recorded in the Atlantic.
The other remarkable thing about the storm was that it had a very intense shift in intensity from a Category 1 to Category 4 storm in less than 24 hours, making it one of the most impressive rapid intensification cases in Atlantic history.
The storm is expected to bring life-threatening winds and storm surge to Jamaica. And CTV's Scott Hurst is tracking the storm and the damage. Scott, thanks for joining us. Talk to us about the destruction we've seen so far and just how powerful is this storm?
Michelle, this storm, of course, may be thousands of kilometers away, but it is no doubt top of mind for many people in Toronto who are either from one of these Caribbean island nations or trace their heritage to one of these Caribbean island nations, and no doubt have lots of friends and family still in the region and are likely very concerned for their safety and well-being right now. So let's first talk about the trail of destruction this storm has already caused, and it has now reached a Category 5 status, and that means sustained winds of more than 252 kilometers per hour, where you can expect catastrophic damage. It's already caused a trail of destruction across several Caribbean island nations as a Category 4 and then strengthened to a Category 5. Michelle, as you mentioned, it is the strongest hurricane ever in the Atlantic this early in the season, which is why it's being called historic and unprecedented. Hurricane researchers are concerned this is a troubling precedent for what could be a dangerous hurricane season, setting an ominous tone as hurricane activity this year is predicted to be above normal, pointing to unseasonably high ocean temperatures. So that is the immediate concern right now, and the aftermath and the trail of destruction the storm has already caused, Michelle.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about where it's headed next and how intense it could potentially get.
Yeah, that is the next concern as this storm continues to track northwest, and directly in the path of the storm is Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, and then after that it'll be heading towards the Yucatan Peninsula and Cancun before then reaching the Mexican mainland. Now, Category 5 right now, it's expected to weaken slightly, still be a significantly powerful storm. However, as it reaches Jamaica, potentially as a Category 2 or Category 3 storm over the next couple of days. And so officials in Jamaica are not taking any chances. They have already issued a hurricane warning yesterday, so urging everyone there to be extremely cautious as they wait for this incoming and powerful storm.
CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
A major cleanup is underway after parts of northwest Calgary were flooded by a heavy storm.
It was like up to your belly button, close to like your hips. I don't know, the car was floating.
Several basements were flooded as a pool of water stretched across this road, with water spilling over onto the sidewalk, leaving at least one vehicle getting caught in the middle of it. Environment and Climate Change Canada reported an average of 10.3 millimeters of rainfall throughout the city on Sunday. Teams are continuing a search of a lake in Peterborough for a missing man.
Police, fire services, and the OPP are involved in this search of Little Lake. Increased police and first responder activity was expected in the area starting this morning. Officers learned the man went into the water from the shore. A friend who had jumped from a train bridge attempted to help him, but was unsuccessful.
We have a pretty nice start to the short work week for many. Temperature-wise, we're fairly close to seasonal, but the humidex becomes more of a factor the further we go throughout the week. For today, enjoy it. We'll be at 24, feeling like 26. The UV index, though, very high at a 9, so sun protection is paramount if you want to spend some time outside, whether it's kids at camp, you at work, or just spending time outdoors. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including some active weather as we head in towards the middle of the week.
Well, another Canada Day is in the books, and the celebrations yesterday were capped off with fireworks, of course.
And there was a spectacular show at Woodbine Beach. Thousands packed Ashbridges Bay Park last night, bringing an end to a picture-perfect day of weather for the country's 157th birthday. Police had stepped up their presence to deter dangerous and criminal activity that has occurred in the past, but no incidents have been reported. Now, I have to admit, I didn't see that, but I saw some pre-fireworks sell like the day before at like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Somebody decided to just set them off.
You kind of just hear that this past long weekend.
It's just a part of the weekend.
Yeah, you just hear them here and there, which is kind of nice. And hey, I mean, we had a small display at our house, but I think more exciting, at least for our kids, is just the fact that they get to stay up till it gets dark. And it takes a while, right? So some tired folks this morning.
It happens. I'm a fan of the sparklers. You can just sit me. I'm just happy to sit there with the sparklers.
Spell your name.
Safer,
it's
too.
the best. You do all of a sudden are doing gymnastics routines.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know. Anyways, I had a great time. But the forecast was perfect yesterday. We had some warmth that ended up being too humid outside, and that's kind of the same story that we have as we head in towards the day today. But the humidity really ramps up heading into the day tomorrow, and with an incoming cold front, those two things together bring some pretty active weather. But we'll break it all down. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Beautiful start to the day today, though. We're holding on to a decent amount of sunshine, and it is going to be one of those days where we have a higher UV index, so sun protection really, really important because it can sneak up on you. Even though it isn't one of those crazy hot and humid days, the UV index is at a 9, so we're kind of in that very high range, and then we're verging on extreme as we head into the day tomorrow. But for now, we're in the kind of low 20 range, feeling into the mid 20s, so you factor in the humidex, and it's feeling where we should be for this time of year, around 26. As we head into the day tomorrow, a system right now kind of sitting in northern Ontario, another one south of the border. The energy from both of those kind of mix, and we have a pretty active afternoon ahead of us. But for now, a fairly moderate easterly or southeasterly wind, and temperatures today really comfortable. 24 feeling like 26. We're kind of all in that 24 to 25 degree range, and the humidex values aren't too intense. Heading into the evening, all that daytime heat that we build up, we don't lose much of it, and then incoming cloud cover really helps to seal it in. So we'll sit at 19 here in the city. We should be at 16. We should be at 15 through London. We'll be at 20 degrees. So it is a really warm night ahead of us. The bulk of the active weather right now is the system kind of sitting in northern Ontario and another one coming up south of the border. They're going to push their way into the second half of the day tomorrow, set to bring rain and the risk of some thunderstorm activity, but it moves out relatively quickly. The heavier showers are for anybody north. I know in this kind of like early summertime, a lot of folks may be heading out to a cottage. This will likely impact you as we head throughout the week. But as we head throughout our Tuesday afternoon, just some increasing cloud cover, but still really warm out there. And even on a cloudy day, we still have a pretty high UV index. It doesn't mean you can skip the sun protection, even though we have cloud cover out there. As we head in towards our Wednesday, we have a clearer start to the day. Lots of sunshine out there. Again, the heavier rain north of areas of Huntsville. But then as we head into the afternoon, right around 2 is when the cloud cover increases and the chance of rain begins. We're looking at a wave of it kind of in that mid-afternoon time frame. Fast and furious, it's gone by about 6 o'clock. And then through 8 p.m., we'll likely see some sunshine before the day is all said and done. So these are more of those pop-up system type of situations. And then as we head into Thursday, the return of a little more sunshine. So not a wash of a day tomorrow by any means, but a good idea if you have those afternoon plans or you're picking up kids from camp or you're heading out in the afternoon to keep that rain gear handy. Temperature-wise, again, it's not a bad start, right? We're looking at 24, feeling like 26, a little warm this evening. As we head in towards Wednesday and Thursday, with the high humidex values into the mid-30s, it can be very challenging. Never leave vulnerable people, pets, anybody in the car, and you always want to check on those people that are maybe more susceptible to those really high heat days. Temperature-wise, though, 29 for the highs Wednesday and Thursday, and then after that system cuts through, we see a return to more seasonal weather as we head in towards the end of the week. Still a few days out, but we're a little unsettled to kick things off on Saturday. But overall, settling into this first full week of July, it is going to be absolutely beautiful. I'll send things back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Well, some good news to report after frightening moments when a dog was spotted running along the QEW this morning in Oakville. Ontario Provincial Police tweeted this photo. The dog was not injured. The dog was coaxed into a cruiser with some treats. It's been taken to animal control in Oakville.
Still to come, Canada will take on Venezuela in Copa America soccer. We'll have the details after the break. Now that summer vacation has begun, protection against sunburn should be top of mind.
Sunscreens and clothing have to be on your to-do list. CTV's Pat Foran has more on Consumer Alert.
Fun in the sun can come to a scorching halt with a nasty sunburn. If you've ever gotten one, you know how unpleasant it can be. Cooling the burn the right way will help alleviate sunburn pain. Getting a sunburn is never fun. Your skin feels like it's on fire and anything that touches you hurts, not to mention the potential long-term health effects.
Every time you get a sunburn, it ages your skin and it increases your risk for skin cancer.
Consumer Report says prevention should be a priority. Wear the right sunscreen and cover up.
The right way to apply a lotion sunscreen is to use a teaspoon per body part that's not covered by clothing.
But when you forget sunscreen or don't correctly reapply it, there are ways to relieve the discomfort. Start by taking frequent cool baths or showers.
As soon as you're done bathing, pat yourself dry. Don't rub the towel against your skin. You want to leave your skin a little damp and then apply moisturizer.
Look for moisturizers that contain aloe vera or soy, since sunburns inflame the skin. Taking an anti-inflammatory like aspirin or ibuprofen can help reduce swelling and alleviate discomfort. And be sure to keep hydrated, drinking more water than usual. If your skin blisters, don't pop or peel them, allow them to heal. And if you do go outside, cover up by wearing loose-fitting clothes that cover the burn and stay in the shade as much as possible. If you have a serious sunburn, you may need to seek medical attention. If you feel unwell, have chills, a fever, or nausea, it's recommended you see a doctor. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
The final two matches of the round of 16 at Euro 2024 will be played today. Romania squares off against the Netherlands and Austria plays Turkey.
Conte.
Yesterday, a late own goal, which was a deflection, was the difference as France edged Belgium 1-0. The French are now through to the quarterfinals and are now one of the favorites to win the tournament. In other action, Portugal defeated Slovenia 3-0 in penalties after the team played to a scoreless draw in regulation on Monday.
Canada will face Venezuela in the Copa America quarterfinals.
Again, loose on the ball, get in the back for Venezuela. Vinotinto pushing inside the box. Aramburu cross and Bello! Goal! Goal for Venezuela!
Venezuela beat Jamaica 3-0 to finish atop Group B in the tournament, and that win set the stage for the match against Canada on Friday. The Canadians advanced to the knockout stage for the first time on Saturday after securing a 0-0 draw with Chile.
The roster of Canada's Olympic women's basketball team was announced today.
From Milton, Ontario, Kayla Alexander.
Other members of the team include Toronto's Sammy Hill, Shea Cawley of Brampton, and Hamilton's Kia Nurse. Canada qualified for its fourth consecutive Olympic Games by finishing third in one of 4 qualification tournaments in February. Paris 2024 will be the first time in 24 years that both our women's and men's teams are competing together at an Olympic Games. Still to come, oil prices are on the rise amid concerns about conflict in the Middle East. That's coming up in business.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
On the stock markets, oil prices are on the rise.
And that's amid concerns about the conflict in the Middle East. BNN Bloomberg's Andrew Bell has the details.
Here are your business headlines. Oil traded near 2-month highs today after an escalation in tensions in the Middle East. West Texas Intermediate crude topped $84 US a barrel, but then slipped below that mark. Israel said 18 soldiers were injured in a drone attack by Iran-backed Hezbollah. Swedish battery maker Northvolt may slow its expansion as growth in electric car sales cools off. The company has attracted millions in federal and provincial subsidies for a proposed plant in Montreal. Competition from long-standing battery rivals in Asia, such as China's BYD, has been relentless. And finally, shares in Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly fell about 3% after U.S. President Joe Biden demanded price cuts on their blockbuster weight loss and diabetes drugs. The companies are charging, quote, unconscionably high prices that are above those paid in other countries. Biden and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said in an opinion piece in USA Today. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
A family-run business in Brampton has been going strong for 150 years.
The Stevens Company has been passed through the hands of 6 different generations and shows no sign of slowing down. CTV's Carol Charles has the story.
The assembly line has been rolling at the Stevens Company for decades. For 150 years in Canada, Stevens has been a distributor of medical supplies, equipment, and services to healthcare providers across Canada.
We are still servicing the healthcare of Canadians right across the country, and it's something we take a lot of pride in doing.
The family-owned business opened its doors in 1874 and has grown from small beginnings. They currently run 6 facilities across Canada. Stevens has been led by 6 generations of family members, most recently by Jay Stevens, who took over in 2018.
I've been in the business officially 28 years. It was, I've been around it my whole life, but my great-grandfather moved the business to Canada in 1874, which was only 7 years after Canada was a country.
According to Jay, his great-great-grandfather started the business from making surgical instruments out of scrap metal from wine barrels. The company moved on to become a manufacturer for a long time in the UK. Then in 1874, took on more of a distribution model.
Well, it's a family business. It's carrying forward the legacy of my ancestors, and obviously it means a lot to me.
And the secret to the company's 150-year run?
I think of everybody here almost as family, and I hope a lot of the folks that work here feel the same. Our people really get what we do. They are passionate about it. They treat it like it's their business. And they really understand the value that we bring to Canadian healthcare and do a great job.
Down the road, Jay hopes his twin boys will one day follow in his footsteps and consider a role in the family business. Carol Charles, CTV News.
Well, it's time now to take a look at some of the science and technology headlines making news this week. And for that, we're joined by CTV science and technology analyst Dan Riskin. Dan, great to see you. Happy Tuesday. So research indicates your mental health is linked to the biodiversity in your postal code. What does that mean?
Yeah, this is a Canadian study from Carleton University on Canadian people, and it's just a great story about how nature just feeds us. When you look at data collected by the Canadian government on mental health, there's a big survey, and then you look at the postal codes of the people who answered that survey. You can do a regression to see how that correlates with how many different kinds of birds live in different places. And so what they found in this study is that if you happen to live in a place that has more diversity of birds or more diversity of trees or is close to a blue space, you are more likely to answer on that survey that you have good mental health. And so this really drives home the idea that a government doesn't have to pick and choose necessarily between the different ways it can make life better for Canadians. If you're improving biodiversity, you're helping nature, you're also helping people's mental health. And so I like it because it's a win-win situation where you don't have to choose between those two different issues. You can solve them together by taking care of them both at the same time.
Yeah, that is great. And this also supports what you just said. Additional research indicates you can get a mental health boost by paying more attention to the greenery that's around you.
Yeah, this is a study where they had people wear these special glasses that tracked where their eyeballs were looking, and they gave them instructions before they went for a 45-minute walk. Some of the people were told, focus on the green stuff. Look for trees, look for anything that's nature. Other people took the same walk, but they were told to focus on buildings and look for any buildings in the area. And then they used those glasses data to make sure that people did what they were supposed to do in terms of their looking. And afterwards, they took a survey. And the survey showed that people that had been looking at the green had decreased anxiety and they felt more restored after that 45-minute walk compared to people who had looked at the buildings. Same walk, same place. So this really drives home that you can get an extra boost from the nature that's around you if you just pay attention to it, which is also really easy to do.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes a big difference. And finally, SpaceX is known for shooting things into space, but NASA's hired them to take something out of space. What's up there?
That's exactly right. Yes, the International Space Station is its retirement is coming up. They're talking about 2030 as a year that thing needs to come down out of space. They can't just leave it up there because it's going to come down one way or another, and they would like to choose where it lands. Most of it should burn up, but not all of it, certainly. So they want to make sure that it goes to the middle of the Pacific Ocean and doesn't hit anyone when it comes back. They've just awarded the contract to SpaceX to make a special spacecraft to help do that. The contract is estimated at about $843 billion, but it's just a good reminder that for now, we still have the International Space Station. If you don't have an app on your phone that tells you when it's flying overhead, you might as well get one because it's not going to be doing that forever.
All right, good to know. CTV science and tech specialist or analyst Dan Riskin, both, I guess. Take care.
Both, yeah. Take care. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
An unknown soldier from Newfoundland who was killed in France during the First World War is now home.
Memorial Day in Newfoundland was marked in a special way yesterday with a solemn ceremony. CTV's Garrett Berry has the details.
This final journey home, more than a century in the making. Newfoundland's unknown soldier is home, taken from an unmarked grave near a French battlefield and buried again at the National War Memorial in downtown St. John's, this time for good.
For the families of Robert Mercer, Aidan Devereaux, Aubrey Parsons, Frederick White, your son has come home.
A century ago, he might have stood here, this war memorial, close to the very same spot First World War soldiers boarded ships bound for Europe.
Thousands of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians volunteered to fight overseas, and more than 1,700 of them died in the First World War. This unknown soldier represents the more than 800 that were buried in unmarked graves, their identities lost in the war's chaos.
What makes Canada the best country in the world is its people. But this country didn't happen by accident, and it won't continue without effort.
They came from far and wide with flags and poppies and blue forget-me-nots to remember.
May we live together peacefully, one with another, all with all.
But not just a man who lived and fought and died, also Newfoundland itself, once one of the world's smallest countries, which gave so much and lost so many.
And for everyone across Newfoundland and Labrador who carries this in their hearts, our son is now home.
A soldier home now and forever. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
A frightening crash on Parliament Hill during a Canada Day performance injured a member of Canada's military parachuting team. The skydiver was seen approaching the crowded landing zone. Ottawa paramedics say the skydiver hit a cement pillar and suffered serious injuries, but they are considered non-life-threatening, and the skydiver is in hospital in stable condition.
Well, there's new hope now for the future of one of Canada's most endangered animals, the Vancouver Island marmot.
A 2-decade-long recovery effort has been working to save the species from extinction. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson reports.
A tentative young marmot has a lot to take in during the first few moments of its new life in the wild.
It's the culmination of a whole year's worth of effort to see these marmots in the wild for the first time.
They're raised in captivity in partnership with zoos in Calgary and Toronto, then travel to their home turf, Vancouver Island's Mount Washington, the only region these cousins of the groundhog can be found anywhere on the planet.
This is the only endemic mammal species in British Columbia, one of only 4 endemic mammal species in Canada. Really, if we don't save the marmot, nobody else is going to. So, and it's a special animal. This is our species.
A social species with plenty of personality, which becomes quickly apparent to the volunteers toting them to the release site.
Mine was pretty loud. His name was Lamar. He was squeaking a lot.
They're endearing, but endangered. When the Marmot Recovery Foundation began its work in 2003, there were fewer than 30 left living in the wild. Now the population is pushing 300, dozens living on the slopes of Mount Washington, fast asleep during the ski season.
Still a critically endangered species, but the recovery certainly seems to be going in the right direction right now.
The group plans to release 60 marmots this year, but not all of them will survive. They're commonly hunted by eagles, wolves, and cougars. Their fate will be tracked by the team that spends months planning each release.
So we'll follow the locations very closely over the next few weeks, and our hope is that most of them will stay put pretty close to home.
Adding to a small population still at risk, but beginning to thrive. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up, a father and daughter reunited after almost 40 years. It was a reunion decades in the making, a father and daughter making up for lost time.
She traveled to BC from Ontario thanks to the help of strangers. CTV's Adam Sawatsky has the story.
Tanya Ellis is in the midst of an unexpected journey.
So excited and nervous.
So looking forward to sharing the books in her bag.
He's gonna love seeing these, I'm sure.
These happy memories of baby Tanya and her birth father before he left when she was 5 and she never heard from him again.
We were always just told the same thing, that it was due to mental health issues.
That was almost 4 decades ago, long before we knew what we now know about mental health, and Tanya's feelings couldn't have been more complicated.
Always in the back of your mind that there's something not right with yourself, right? That they leave you.
And while you keep moving forward, perhaps like Tanya, lucky enough to have a wonderful family that includes an adopted dad, everything seems to stop when out of the blue a stranger calls to say your birth father is looking for you.
I mean, I was shocked, you know, and she kept asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I can't even believe this is happening."
Yet 3 days later, Tanya had flown from Ontario to BC to visit a hospice facility in Vancouver's downtown east side to meet her birth father for the first time in 38 years.
Let's give him a big giant hug, and it was just beautiful. It was really nice.
If you ask Glenn how the reunion was for him, the man of few words will show you how he felt.
That's a big smile.
Because it's not every day you get to say how proud you are of the woman your little girl grew up to be.
That's so nice.
And it's not every day that you get to see that she is proud of you for being on the news a couple times before.
God bless.
For striving to spread positivity despite your struggles.
To make people happy.
To make people happy, Glenn said. And there have been countless happy moments after he and Tanya were brave enough to say all the things they needed to say to start turning hurt into healing.
Love.
Love is what Glenn says he's learned life is all about. And although what life he has left is limited,
How big is the love? Vast.
the depth of love he feels for Tanya and the other family members he's been reunited with is limitless.
I can now feel a peace in my life that I've never felt before.
And the photo album that once featured too many blank pages will now be filled with so many happy memories. Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Vancouver.
Toronto Police launched the 18th edition of their Youth in Policing program today.
And this morning, the police chief spoke about the goals of the initiative,
including providing a safe and culturally diverse job experience for youth, strengthening ties between police and youth through positive interactions, offering education and meaningful work experiences for youth, and helping encourage participants to consider applying for a job with the service when choosing their career.
And the chief says the program is working. Currently, the police service employs 41 graduates. This summer, 155 students from 31 neighborhoods will take part in the program. It began in Toronto and is now funded province-wide by Queen's Park. Great program.
This is really an exciting time. They're starting that. Kids this week, it's the first day of camp. Maybe counselors the first day. It's an exciting time with nice weather, fortunately, too.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those days where we're not too hot, we're not too cold. It's a, Goldilocks type of forecast, but we're right smack dab in the middle. But as we head into the day tomorrow, the heat is on and so is the humidity. So keep that in mind. Maybe packing extra water for the kids, the camp counselors, for yourself as you head in towards your Wednesday. But for now, we are relatively comfortable, fairly light easterly or southeasterly flow to the wind. But that rain is knocking on the door. There are two systems. There's one just south of the border and one making its way from northern Ontario Ontario. The two of them combined are going to kind of sweep across the province tomorrow, bringing some pretty messy weather. For now, it is dry and we're fairly sunny, and temperature-wise, it's comfortable. We're sitting at 22 right now, on our way to about 24 for the high. The seasonal norm is 26. Everybody is relatively comfortable. We're at or just shy of seasonal as we kind of head throughout the day. Maybe you're off this week. Maybe you're taking some extra time. Maybe you're heading out towards the island. A fantastic day to do so. But again, it is very sunny, a very high UV index out there. So head out, enjoy, explore the city, explore the GTA, but do it safely. Now, temperature-wise, as we step in towards that midpoint of our week, again, that 29 feeling into the mid-30s as a cold front slices through. So keep that in mind. The heat, the humidity through your Wednesday, Thursday, and even into Friday, it's going to be up there. So just make sure you're preparing yourself accordingly.
All right, thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. And if you missed the fireworks yesterday, here's your chance to see them again.